Hello, everyone. Welcome to Random Talk with NG. My name is Ngozi Obiefuna, and I am so excited to be here. The past 2 weeks, we've discussed, or I have brought before you my thoughts on the ego trap. We've explored various angles, and up until this point, we've talked about ego in arguments, we've talked about apologizing, we've talked about age, titles, money, comparison, and success. But now I want to go a little deeper because here is the truth. Ego is rarely a one time event, it's a lifestyle, it's a way of seeing the world. Once ego takes control, it changes how you speak, how you listen, how you lead, and even how you love. And you know the sad part? You often don't notice it. Everyone else does. Have you ever met someone who asks for advice only to reject every piece of it? You say, maybe you should try this. They respond, no, that won't work. You offer another suggestion. Oh, I've already thought about that. You ask a question. You don't understand my situation. That's what they say. Then after 30 minutes of talking, you realize something. They weren't looking for advice. They were looking for validation. They wanted someone to agree with what they had already decided. That's another form of ego, because humility doesn't just ask for help. It is willing to receive it. Sometimes the answer you're praying for comes through someone else. But if your ego has already decided that no one can teach you anything, you'll miss the lesson. One of the biggest dangers of leadership is believing you have arrived. Whether you're leading a family, a business, a church, a classroom, or even a small team, the moment you think you know everything is the moment your growth begins to slow. The best leaders ask questions. They invite feedback. They create space for disagreement because they understand something powerful. Agreement is comfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. If everyone around you is always saying, yes, boss, you're right, or noted, okay, we'll do that, excellent idea, then maybe people have stopped being honest with you. And that's dangerous. A wise leader doesn't surround themselves with people who only clap. They surround themselves with people who care enough to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Imagine two close friends. They've known each other for years. One day, one of them starts being successful. Nothing wrong with that at all. They buy a nicer car, move into a better apartment, dress a little differently. Again, nothing wrong with that. But slowly, their conversations change. They interrupt more. They stop asking about your life. Every story somehow becomes about them. Every achievement becomes a chance to remind you how far they've come. Without realizing it, success has become their personality. And people begin pulling away. Not because they are jealous, but because humility has disappeared. One thing I've noticed is this: the people who leave the biggest impact on your life are rarely the loudest. They're usually the kindest. The ones who make you feel seen. The ones who listen more than they speak. The ones who can walk into a room without needing everyone to notice them. That's real confidence. Real confidence doesn't announce itself. It simply exists. So now let's make this practical. How often do we listen just enough to reply instead of listening to understand? Someone starts telling you about a difficult day and goes, oh, today was a very hard day. I went through this, I went through that. Before they've even finished, you interrupt. That reminds me of when I did this. I know a couple of people who love to do this during our conversations, and over time, I just stopped talking about whatever it was I was going through with them, because it doesn't make sense that you make my conversation or my problems about yourself. But suddenly the conversation becomes about you. Again, we've all done it. I know I might have done it, or in fact, I know I have done it in some instances. Sometimes we don't mean to, but it's worth paying attention to. Because one of the greatest gifts you can give another human being is your full attention. Listening is a form of respect. And respect is one of the strongest antidotes to ego. Now, here's another question. Have you ever done something good, then felt disappointed because nobody knew it was you? Maybe you helped organize an event. Maybe you solved a problem at work. Maybe you supported someone financially. and when your name wasn't mentioned, something inside you felt irritated. That's normal. We all like to be appreciated. But here's the challenge. Can you do good even when no one claps? Can you help without needing recognition? Can you serve without needing applause? Because the strongest character is built in places where nobody is watching. Now let's clear up a misunderstanding. Humility does not mean allowing people to disrespect you. It does not mean pretending you have no talent. It does not mean becoming silent or insecure. Humility isn't saying I am worthless. Humility is saying I know my worth, but I also know I am not better than anyone else. There's a difference. You can be confident without being arrogant. You can be successful without becoming proud. You can lead without looking down on people. Some of the greatest people in history were also some of the most humble. Why? Because the more they learned, the more they realized how much they still didn't know. And that's wisdom. Now, as you listen to this episode, I want to challenge you to do something simple. This week, pause before every argument. Ask yourself, am I trying to understand or am I trying to win? Before dismissing someone's opinion, ask, what if they see something I don't? Before refusing to apologize, ask, is my pride worth this relationship? And before comparing yourself to someone else's journey, also ask, what if their success has nothing to do with my timeline? Those questions might change your life. Because the battle against ego isn't won in one dramatic moment. It's won in small, everyday decisions. The decision to listen, the decision to admit you're wrong, the decision to celebrate someone else, the decision to keep learning, the decision to choose peace over pride. Sometimes the strongest words you will ever say aren't, I told you so. They are, you were right. Sometimes the bravest step you would ever take isn't walking away. It's walking back to someone and saying, can we talk? And sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving that you're right. It's preserving a relationship that matters more than your pride. Now, as we begin to wrap up today's conversation and the whole conversation on the ego trap, I don't want you to think about your neighbor. Don't think about your boss. Don't think about your spouse. Don't think about that friend who never apologizes. Don't think about your parents. Don't think about your children. Think about you. Because one of the easiest things in life is identifying ego in other people. One of the hardest things is recognizing it in ourselves. It's easy to say, that person is proud. It's much harder to ask, where is pride hiding in me? And that's where real growth begins. Not when we point fingers, but when we look in the mirror. I want to leave you with a few questions. Not for you to answer out loud. Just answer them honestly in your heart. When was the last time you admitted you were wrong? When was the last time you apologized without making excuses? Can someone younger than you correct you without you feeling insulted? Can someone less educated than you teach you something? Can someone who earns less than you still have wisdom worth listening to? Can you celebrate someone else's success without comparing it to your own? Can you say, I don't know, without feeling embarrassed? Can you change your opinion when presented with better information? If some of those questions made you uncomfortable, great. Discomfort isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes discomfort is proof that growth is beginning. One thing I've noticed about life is this. Life is a very fair teacher. Not because it treats everyone the same, but because eventually it humbles everyone. The strongest body grows old. The sharpest mind forgets things. The richest person discovers that money really can't solve every problem. The most connected person realizes that influence has limits. The most educated person still has questions they can't answer. Life has a way of reminding each and every one of us that no matter how high we climb, we're all human. Maybe that's why humility is so powerful. Because humble people don't wait for life to humble them. They choose humility before life forces it upon them. Imagine two cups sitting on a table. One cup is completely full. The other is half full. Now imagine someone wants to pour fresh water into both. What happens? The full cup can't receive anything else. It overflows. The half cup receives more. That's us. I believe that analogy relates to us as humans. When our minds are full of pride, there is no room for growth at all. No room for correction, no room for wisdom, no room for change. Humility doesn't mean emptying yourself completely. It simply means leaving room to learn. Leave room to be corrected. Leave room to become better than you were yesterday. When people describe you years from now, what do you want them to remember? Do you want them to say he was always right? He never admitted that he was ever wrong. He never took corrections. He never took feedback. Or he always made people feel heard. Do you want them to remember how expensive your clothes were? Or how generous your heart was? Do you want people to admire your title or your character? Because titles eventually fade. Positions change. Money comes and goes. Beauty changes. Strength changes. Status changes. But character? Hey, character has a way of outliving us. Long after people forget what you owned, they'll remember how you treated them. I once heard someone say, the tree with the most fruit bends the lowest. Think about that. The more fruitful it becomes, the lower it bends. And maybe that's what real greatness looks like. Not becoming harder to approach as you succeed, but becoming kinder. Not becoming louder, but becoming wiser. Not becoming more important, but becoming more intentional. Because the people who leave the deepest impact on this world that we live in today are rarely those who constantly demand respect. They are the ones who quietly earn it. Now, before I wrap this up, if there is someone you've been meaning to call them. If there is an apology you have been postponing, make it. If you've been refusing good advice simply because of who it came from, reconsider it. If you've been carrying pride that's costing you peace, ask yourself a simple question. What am I really protecting? Sometimes we're so busy protecting our pride that we end up losing things and people far more valuable, and it's so painful. We lose friendships, trust, opportunities, family, love, peace, and none of them are worth sacrificing just to win an argument. As we end today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Your greatest enemy isn't always the person standing in front of you. Sometimes it's the voice inside you that refuses to learn, refuses to forgive, refuses to apologize, and refuses to grow. Don't let your ego become louder than your purpose. Don't let your pride become bigger than your peace. And don't let the need to be right stop you from becoming better. Because at the end of the day, people won't remember how many arguments you won. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember your kindness, your patience, your humility, your willingness to grow. And maybe, just maybe, that's what true greatness has always been. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Thank you so much for coming on this journey on the ego trap with me. And if today's episode made you reflect, I would love for you to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Not as a way of saying this is definitely about you, but as an invitation for all of us to grow together. This has been Random Talk with Angie. I'm your host, Ngozi Obifuna. And until next time, stay humble, stay curious, keep growing, and remember, the strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the one who is humble enough to keep learning. Take care.